Good evening. Welcome to Monday, October 9th, 2023, regular board meeting. Call to order. It is 6:06. Roll call, please.
Davis.
Here.
Piles present. Laster.
Present.
Evans.
Present.
McCarthy.
Here.
Kennard.
Absent, excuse.
Wester.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the October 9th, 2023 meeting agenda as amended. We need to remove, under C, we're going to remove, under employment, Jessica Pasinski. We also need to add, which would be number 7.5, Dr. Gitzinger will be giving us a financial report. Is there support?
Support.
Madam President,
Yes.
I would also like to add a motion, two things to the table, one about properties and one about a new board table. Thank you.
The motion was made by Wester, supported by Davis. Roll call vote.
Does Davis support those additions, those amendments?
Sure.
Wester.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Piles, yes. McCarthy.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Laster.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have public comment. Did you want to read that? Okay. Guidelines for public comment. As stated in Board Policy 1002, board meetings of the Board of Education, the board will establish guidelines concerning public participation at board meetings. The guidelines will include, but are not limited to, limiting the time an individual may address the board to 3 minutes, requiring individuals who wish to address the board to identify themselves, their address, and other organizations they may represent, advising the public that generally the board and individual board members will not directly respond to comments or questions that arise during public participation portion of the meeting, requiring individuals who wish to address the board to direct their comments to the entire board, not to individual board members, the superintendent, or other district employees or members of the audience. Prohibiting behavior that is intemperate, abusive, defamatory, or discourteous, or that otherwise interferes with the orderly conduct and timely completion of the board meetings. Excluding from the meeting an individual who engages in conduct that constitutes as a breach of peace. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by their comments. While it is not our intent to stifle public comment, speakers should be aware that if your statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held legally responsible. If you are unsure of the legal ramifications of what you are about to say, we urge you to consult first with your legal advisor. Do we have any public comments?
Rita Hampton. Does anyone else have a form? That's it then.
Good evening.
Good
I just
evening.
wanted to say, my recall failed, but it doesn't matter, it didn't fail. What's so delicious about one door closed, another one open? The judge is listening because now he's asking for comments. I want to listen to have you, and then what I do is call down there and immediately ask for the transcripts so I can repeat it to you all what it is. This is the best one of them all. The first recall I did was addressing absences. So one of the board members says, I called it failure of fiduciary of duty. That means when you act in behalf of your citizens and you're on a board and they voted you in, you have a duty of care to be there and be there. Just be there. Have a good attendance. Since we have 2 board meetings a month, that means if you're absent 6 times, that means you're absent 3 months. So here we go. I presented the board the absence total. I think it was 8. And this person said, this board member responded, I'd like to say this is not a factual statement. I was on the phone continuously. You're on the phone continuously when I was absent. Who are you talking to? And my situation of saying that this is not a fiduciary responsibility. My absence didn't violate any school board policy or state board policy or anything else. Ms. Hampton said that I spoke during public comment, and I didn't, if you reread the recall at the end of the board meeting. Again, in response to her comment as to what was I doing, I said I needed a break. I absolutely didn't say that. And I'll say, okay, I made a mistake. But after I went to pick up papers, I always have to go down there, pick up papers. One of the clerks said, you know, she said I didn't violate any law. She said, but what about violation to the people who voted for her to be in the office? And I said, that's where we're going to go. So as long as they continue to talk during the recall, I say I'm getting the transcript so I can convey it to you why I continually ask for resignation. No one cares who's on the board. The 3 members do not care about the people of Romulus.
Point of order,
13.
she is defaming our position, and it's a personal attack on the feelings of others.
Oh, yeah. As I was saying, I want you to remember these numbers. 13, how many months Dr. Edmondson was here before he was terminated. I want you to remember 8, that's how many
Thank you, Ms. Hampton.
board members we had. And don't forget 5.
Point of order.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton.
Point of order.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton.
Thank you.
You need to use your gavel more, Madam President.
Consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the October 9th, 2023 consent agenda as presented. Matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under the report of the superintendent portion of the agenda. A, approval of the minutes for the Board of Education, September 25th, 2023, regular board meeting. Approval of bills for payment submitted by Jewel Claire in the amount of $996,773.31. C, approval of the personnel actions as submitted by Human Resources Director Kevin Brock. The employment of Sarah Slack, Secretary for Hell Creek Elementary School.
Support.
Madam President, I have a question about the bills for payment. So I'm requesting that that be removed.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Davis?
Yes.
Piles, yes. McCarthy?
Yes.
Laster?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Wester?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now we're under the report of the superintendent. First question was for bills of payment.
Yes, my question is, I know it's been asked at the table before, and we haven't received the response. as far as approval of the bills for payment as submitted by, it was requested that we receive a contract for Ms. Claire or have these submitted by Maria so that we are covered, so that we have somebody that we are contractually, we have a contract with submitting our bills for payment and working in finances. Do we have an update on when that contract will come to the board for approval?
Dr. Gistinger is on her way, so I'm sure that she could address that.
So can this, Madam President, are we able to amend the bills for payment as submitted by Ms. Gitzinger?
Yes.
I have a question. Does Ms. Gitzinger, Doctor, I'm sorry. Is she, I mean, we're saying, can we approve it under her name? She has not submitted this. So why would we just randomly change the name from who this document is provided? I think that we should wait for Ms. Claire, or Ms. Gitzinger, Dr. Gitzinger also to
We
be
can
here
wait till she
too.
gets here to discuss what the bills are, and we can have it submitted under her name at that
Correct.
point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Edmondson?
Great. I told you that I would provide you count day information and an attendance update. In front of you, you should, I said I have just, this is just ridiculous. All the stuff I have here is just ridiculous. It really is. But you should have, let me see, where is it? Okay. No, mine isn't. Mine's not there. Okay. Well, you have plenty of documents. How about that? I gave you every document that I could give you. This one here is our current count day. I don't know if I want to announce it out loud, but it's there. If you go to the last page, you'll see what our current count is. I can tell you this. I mean, I don't want to take too long, but the district is lacking systems, period. And it's nobody's fault. It's the fact that multiple positions, people have not stayed long enough. They're gone here today, gone tomorrow. We've had a whole lot of that in the last, you all can fill in the date. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to work on systems. And the reason that I say that, not only to the board, but I'll say to the board is this, that when you have systems, they can sustain when someone leaves or somebody, leaves the district. And that's what we're working on, systems. Right now, I'm very pleased whoever made the decision to hire Ms. Kathy Andrews, best thing that could really happen here. She's trying to clean up, realize that some teachers and maybe even some principals don't have a firm grasp. And I'll say I don't have a firm grasp because that's not something that I do. That's not in my lane at all. So I let her, but we're working on those things. I recognize it as a problem here. It is a big problem, the attendance. So it will be addressed, I can tell you that. And by the time I leave, whenever that is, we'll have it under control. But you can see our count at the end of the last page. I wanted to also provide you these two documents to the board. One says 23-24, the other one says 22-23. It just gives you an idea of the percentages of the student percentages. You can look at student count, what it started at from 22 to 23. Add chair to the table. 23, 24. So I wanted to provide you all this information. You can look at it yourselves. Just wanted to put that in there for you. You should have one with graphs. You see the colors on them? I don't have them with me right now. This one here. These are enrollment fluctuations. This gives you an idea of actual students that started from September 5th to October 5th. You have them by school. And you can see the variance there by schools. I wanted to provide that to you. I certainly not going to discuss it now. It speaks for itself. Just this school year, that's what you see. But you can see that we have attendance problems. And I'm going to get to the next thing because I know that's an issue in the community and the district. But
So I have a question.
Yeah,
You're saying
sure.
This is attendance I'm sorry. You're saying it's attendance. Is this enrollments or is this
No,
the attendance?
it should be attendance, not enrollments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. She just wanted, the colors were just to represent the different days, because on the bottom, you don't see September 6th, September 7th, September 8th. Just gives you an idea, okay? So I wanted you to have that and look, because as a board member and as a community member, this is a huge issue, okay? This is a huge issue, which will bring me to my next two papers. And this is for, you know, certainly I want you to look at it when we have one-on-one meetings. I expect you to ask me questions, no problem, or just ask me questions. I'm getting to the next part, because that seems to be an issue, is attendance update. I've had a couple of parent inquiries about, you know, harsh attendance practices. It's not a policy, only the board can create a policy, but it's practices. The thing that I would tell the board first and the community is this: if the mentality doesn't change, nothing is going to change. Nothing will change until there is a mentality change. And attendance is that serious to me as it is to teachers. It ties in with achievement. We can't sit here and talk about achievement if we're okay with attendance, people not coming for school. I'm not here to try to get on anybody about your kids not here, but I think that there should be a standard, and right now there is not a standard. I'm asking the board to support the practice of, you know, this is per semester. So you've seen it as a board, and the community has seen it, 9, 6, 3, 6, 9. At 9, yes, you will see the 34th District Court. And I remind the community and the board, that's per semester. So you can have 18 absences and you're still chronically absent. Even with this new practice, you're still chronically absent. At what point is it serious? Okay, school is a microcosm of the world. If we're here to support kids and I'll just say this: I've never missed 18 days of work, okay? Never missed 18 days of work, ever. If I'm used to missing 18, 20, 30, 40 days of school, what have we set kids up for? And that's just my personal view on it. So now I'm going to get to this. Enrollment. This is 22, 23. You get to see the enrollment of each school, okay? So you can get an idea how many kids are there. That's enrollment actually there. Then you get the absenteeism, the same school year, by school. So for those who can't see, Barth Elementary, 38% chronically absent, which means at least 20 absences a year, at least. Hale Creek, about 45% chronically absent. Romulus Elementary, about 38% chronically absent. Wick Elementary, probably about 42, 43% chronically absent. Things get a little better at the middle school because it drops down to 27% chronically absent. Then we get to our high school, slightly less, it's probably about 25% chronically absent. The reason that I have that there is because if you really want to know the numbers, you look at the enrollment and times it by, for the first one, Barth has 35% chronically absent. You have about 280 kids there last year. Do the math, at least 60, 70 kids. What does that do to teachers? What does that do when I'm sitting in here in front of everybody talking about our achievement, or you have really big questions about achievement? To me, it's a no-brainer that we have to address it. I'm sorry, as I said before, if you don't like my style, I'm all right with that. You don't have to like my style. But I have the passion to address this. And so that brings me to this sheet, which you don't have. So I invited, I believe, Trustee Laster and Dr. Cheney to our, I did it right, didn't I? Oh, parent, yes, she was a parent. Even though, you know what I'm saying? Can't separate the two, but you know, we invited her to a meeting in Dr. Cheney because I wanted, first of all, them to see me with the community liaisons. We meet every Thursday, and we hammer this stuff out. We talk about it. We have not rolled anything out, okay? Everybody has an idea what's going to happen, but I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things. Like this week, we do scenarios. We do some scenarios, and I had scenarios for them because I want us to be on the same team and make certain that we are answering questions, the same way. But we all recognize it as an issue. So one of the ones that I wrote up was, during your interaction with a parent on the phone, she informs you that she is school of choice and transports her children to school. She is experiencing car trouble and cannot depend on her car to get her kids to school. She says she really doesn't know what to do, and she doesn't want us to take her to court. These are the scenarios that we get, and we go over these. We talk about them because they're hard. I mean, that's a hard one. This one specifically was about being school of choice, and how do you answer that? So we talk about these things because, again, they're real. So if you are a parent, hypothetically at Hale Creek, but you're but you're choicing into Barth, and now your car doesn't work, okay? Then you're looking at us like, well, you don't want me to call? No, I don't want to call, but you're also a school of choice. So my response is that you at least have a conversation with the parent about going to your home school. I don't make you, but it's a conversation that parents should know that that's still a choice. We want your kids to come to school. Where we're battling, or not battling, I'm sorry, where we're having an issue is the identification of excused versus unexcused. And that's real. Like, when we're there, I mean, I think parent Laster could say, like, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I can't, if a kid is absent, excused, what does that mean? That your parent just called you in, is that it? Or is there a difference between that and unexcused? Bottom line for me is you're still not in school. That's the bottom line. You're still not in school. Does it mean we're going to send you to court? It does not. Okay, every school has a community liaison to have these discussions, to get to know parents at 3 and find out what's going on, to find out from the secretary potentially why their student isn't coming to school. We use, our data system is not MyStar. The secretary's is MyStar. Ours is EduClimber. And the EduClimber will alert us when you have 3 absences, 6 absences, and 9 absences. We're not putting people into court immediately. That's the last thing we want to do. The first thing we want to do is find out what's happening. Maybe you need some resources. But as I said, I can't offer a cab. If a student is on the other side of town, I can't offer them a cab. It's just, it's a troublesome, tricky area. Teachers know it, principals know it, secretaries know it, we all know it. But it's a big problem, so I'm trying to address it, working every Thursday with our community liaisons, visiting schools. Our community liaisons are prepping to give a presentation to the board. We are, and I want you to ask questions. I don't have all the answers. All I know is this here is real. This here is real, and it aligns with our achievement. Our achievement would be way better if we had kids coming to school. And I apologize if you got a phone call or you got an email. So have I. I get calls and I get emails, and I sit down and I will talk to parents about how this is working. And we have not pushed it out. That's November 13th. But we still see the pattern. The patterns are already existing. We're in October. We have kids that miss 5 and 10 days already. And, we're contacting parents. Right now, nobody's really visiting homes because I don't know how I feel about that. As I said, I don't want somebody to go to somebody's home. That just makes me uncomfortable. If 2 of you go, that's different. But I don't want one person going into a home, period, because you never know what can happen. But I just want the board to know that, listen, I'm working on this. I'm working on it hard. When I present something, it doesn't mean that I haven't thought about it. I've absolutely thought about it. I see it every day when I see the achievement numbers, when I look at the attendance. As board, you should know that now I have this system out that when kids are absent and parents don't call in, they get a call from me. It's not live, but they get the call, and the same thing in the afternoon. But I've said, if you contact us and let us know, then you won't get the call. But on any given day, it's between 167 and about 220 absences across the district that I get. Yes.
So regarding that, do we have clearly communicated protocols for, if a child isn't going to be in, should the parent call the school, or do they send a note in with them the next day, or, what is?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would say no, it's not clear. And that's why I tried to start by saying we don't have systems in place, and we're trying to get systems in place because it's not clear.
Right.
And then if the secretary said, well, let's just say this, not to put it on a teacher, but if a teacher doesn't do attendance in the morning, guess what? The parent gets the call, the parent's upset, the parent gets the community liaison call, then that person, and we're talking about this, I keep saying, I don't want a clown show. I don't want us looking crazy where we're not, one person or information is not presented the correct way. I'm at the point where I said, as a teacher, your responsibility by the state is to take good attendance. That's it. And if you can't do that, I don't understand how you could be deemed an effective teacher if you can't take attendance. So there's no blame on teachers either. We just need to have systems in place, maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes, you take attendance. And maybe things have changed since I was in the classroom 30 years ago, but I took attendance.
Right.
I took attendance. So I recognize that as an internal issue that we're definitely trying to work on. I had a great conversation with Mr. Hanson back there about, you know, as I said to you before, when students aren't there, everything defaults to them being present. And then I had a conversation with him, like, let's flip it. But then he told me the amount of work that it would put on a teacher. And then Kathy Andrews said, let's not do that. After we thought about it, we were like, yeah, let's do it. But then we were like, we can't. My responsibility is to make sure that teachers know how to take attendance, and our secretaries do as well. So we brought our secretaries in for training as well. I'll take any questions. I'm not quite done, but it's all relevant.
So I do have a question. In one of the emails I saw, it said that if you are calling in your student, don't call the attendance agent, call the secretaries.
Yes.
What is the reasoning for that?
Because the community liaison will be inundated in a different, so will a secretary.
Right.
I get it. I get that, but that's not the community liaison's job, is not to take attendance. It's to get it's that if it gets in the system, then the attendance, the community liaison will get it if it gets in the system.
So then I go to this question. Who then decides whether it's an excused or
That's-
an
thank you.
unexcused absence? And if the secretary does it, then what are these attendance agents doing? Because in my mind, and I'll give my thought on this, if I'm calling in if my child is absent, the person that's going to be communicating to me when my child has too many absences is the attendance agent. Why don't you start there? Because why pull in a third person, the secretary, to have them say, well, this is why I deemed it excused or unexcused. And we've already had a situation reported to us that a letter was presented to a female, and the attendance agent is a male. So who was the person? We've got, like you said, there is no strategic planning, but I find it questionable as why we wouldn't stick with one person. The attendance agents are here for a reason, and why aren't they the first point of contact?
They're the second point. So again, we've been talking about unexcused and excused absences. I don't have the answer. I could come down strong because I think that it should be. Like, what's the difference, as I said before? But I didn't want the community. Oh, I'm sorry. No, so I wanted the secretaries to have it first, that they are just taking the information and input it. Then it gets to EduClimber, and EduClimber gets to the community liaisons, not the secretaries. EduClimber, which many of us don't know what that is, but EduClimber will warn the community liaisons, and that's when the conversation becomes. And where we are struggling is exactly what you said. Okay, so what's excused and what's unexcused? And we are having these conversations, Trustee Ebbets, like, you know, great question. I think it's a great question. You got to land on something. And that's where I landed on. I made that decision. Like, listen, just have it, the secretaries will input it, and they don't have to make a phone call. I don't want a secretary to make not one phone call. I don't want them to do that. That's the community liaisons. Once it trips, that's their job to now do what they need to do.
So you're referring to community liaisons.
That's attendance agents.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wanted to make sure it weren't
Yeah,
two
no, yeah.
separate people.
Right. And we're still working. I think that name works well, community liaisons, because we're trying to help. Okay, we're not some agent trying to lock you up or anything like that. And it's about relationships. When I have a relationship with a parent, I can now understand, okay, oh, that's what's going on. Got it. Thank you. I got it. Maybe we have some resources for you. I don't feel necessarily that when I was talking to one of our community liaisons was a secretary. So we get great information from her, and I'm like, I don't want to inundate the secretaries. Their job is hard enough. And then she gave us an example of how difficult it is to take the attendance and then to do this and to make the phone calls and do.
Right.
Not trying to do all that. Just if they call in, it goes in the system by 10 o'clock. And then, I mean, if they get it in by 10, the system will not call the parent. And then it's a tough issue, but I certainly want to work on it. Like I said, I'm up for the challenge of working on it because it's complex, definitely complex.
Dr. Edmondson, do we have, if a parent calls in the morning, a lot of times secretaries are swamped and they're not answering it, is there a phone prompt to report an absence where it can go to a voicemail that's specifically for absences at each building?
So not to my knowledge, there is not. There are lots of ideas, and I ask, like, hey, if you have a suggestion for me, that would be great. What I looked into actually was that MyStar, and we're not going to do this, but MyStar has the capability for a parent to go in and actually put in. But I said, oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. But it happens. I mean, at other districts do it, and they say it works. But
Dr.
I'm like,
Edmondson,
not going to do that.
on this data, okay, so you showed us the chronic absenteeism.
Last year.
Okay. Oh, this is last year.
Yeah, it's not this year, that was last year, just to give
Okay,
you an
so,
idea.
so when we're looking at this, okay, so when we're looking at this year, just from September 5th to October 6th, percent present, we've got 88, 94, 94, all 80s and 90s. I think the lowest is it 88?
80, 89
Yeah.
maybe?
88.24 is and that was the first day of school. So we're having 90% and higher present every day? Is that what
As a
this is saying?
district, as a district.
Right.
Yes, as a district. That's
Okay.
what that's reading, as a
Okay.
district.
So then my other question, and this is, I don't know what the answer is, and it's something that we need to iron out, but, so there's a difference between truancy and chronic absenteeism. So I think a lot of people perceived what went out as an iron fist that is dealing with truancy, where it might be helpful if we could focus on informing families, students and families, on why it's important to be present, instead of assuming that they don't value it or they don't know. Some parents may not know their students not in school. But chronic absenteeism is defined by missing 10% of the school days, which boils down to 2 days a month. So we wouldn't necessarily think if a student misses instruction 2 days, oh, there's chronic absenteeism, but that is the definition. And so that instruction time lost is difficult for the student, plus the teacher who's got people missing at all different times, so it prevents the class from moving forward. So I guess my question is, I know we've had our liaisons now for a month. Has any data been gathered to find out why students who are either truant or chronically absent, why they are absent? Are there barriers that are non-academic, or are there social factors, or do we know the why so that we can kind of address the problem where it lies?
Yes and no. So when we do scenarios, we do real-life scenarios that are that actually happen. I can't pinpoint and say it's one is more than the other, but, I mean, I could read you some, I don't really want to do this, but I could read you some other scenarios that we're having where these, just a myriad of different, what's the word I'm looking for, issues, I guess, maybe a myriad of different
But
issues.
do we inquire? Like you said, there's some students that have missed 5 days or more. Do we know why? Like, has anybody reached out to those, or have we identified the students who were chronically absent in 22, 23 and reached out to them and set up supports?
Not for the 22, 23 year. That hasn't happened yet. And again, it's been the first month, and we're meeting every Thursday to have these conversations. So no, not there. Also, if students are suspended, that gets wiped out. So we don't count that against somebody if they've been suspended 5 days or 10 days and things like that. But the conversations are actually starting to happen because now we've identified who the families are. So
Right.
now it's about, how do you get to them? Let's find out what's going on. And again, you know, I was like, not one parent complained about the attendance. What they really complained about was the court. And I get it. I totally get it. Concerned about the court. This is just a major problem. We're going to work with families, and we're thinking about different ways to put out the message. I believe Vice President Boss sent me something about doing a town hall or something like that. I would agree. I'm going to try everything I can, because it's a problem.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about tardies. The tardies at the high school, particularly, and I'll say the middle school, it's unreal. So somebody asked me, are you going to have the community liaisons do that? I'm like, there's only so much we can do. But that's a huge issue too, where you have kids that are here, 2 hours, they leave, they'll be back maybe tomorrow or maybe, and that's another issue. It's just like, and I'm not saying that this is the board, I'm not saying it's the community, it's just the mentality has to change. We have to do something. And I don't know, I don't have the right answers. I thank you so much for approving community liaisons and giving me a chance to address something that's not only prevalent outside of here. And I don't care about another district, frankly. No disrespect to them. I care about what's going on here. And I just thank you for the support, and I ask you for the time, that it's taking time to do it right. And yes, I have the people that are there now, and they're helping me work through this. I couldn't have done it before they got here. They're here, and we're working, and we're talking. They're in all the schools. I believe all the schools probably know who their person is because they're visible. And we're having these conversations, and we have contacted. I'm trying the best I can. I invited Trustee Ebbets, and I will invite any other board member. If you want to be there on Thursday, please do. Okay, not as a board member, but as a collaborator. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know the answer. I have no idea. I just know that I show up
The
to work.
excused and unexcused is only relevant when you're talking about truancy. Because if a student is excused, then they're not truant. But a student can be excused or unexcused, and it's irrelevant. They can still be chronically absent, even if all of their absences are excused.
It's pretty deep. I
So,
mean, it's
right, so
pretty-
that's what we want to focus on, is getting our students in class present, engaging, so that instruction time isn't lost.
Yeah, I think it gives us a chance. You know, I always say this, I'm not an elected official, so things that I do, they have an impact on you when you go for election, but, you know, it's just an issue. It's something that we need to do. Part of me feels like we need to just blow it up and start fresh and say, this is what we're going to do. I don't want anybody to be scared, but sometimes you have to look at your school of choice, okay? Allowing people, you know, if you're going to Barth, hypothetically, and you live in the Hell Creek area, but you're absent 20 times over here, why are we allowing that? You need to be at your home school. School of choice should be, that is true. The train that is true, but not with, but my point is, like, it just gives us a chance to have a conversation about what's going on. We can redo things. We can look at things differently, not for this year, but to start planning for next year. What does school of choice look like? Okay, if they're late all the time or they're not coming, you shouldn't be school of choice. School of choice is for the families and get their kids on time.
We have that option in our school of choice documents.
Right, I'm
We
saying, but you can
this
change,
and-
right. I'm just saying, we need to do something. We don't need to do it now. We just need to get the information and start collecting data and have conversations and not be worried at the board table to have the conversation. It's just a conversation. I don't have the answers, but I think these are some things that we should look at, that it's a privilege to be a school of choice student. It should be, and I'm not blaming them, because I haven't done the data to even know. I have no idea, but it's a privilege. You go there, you get your children there on time, you're there every day, and great. No harm, no foul. So I'm just saying, I'm working really hard on this. I thank you. I'm willing to talk about anything, attendance. We have another meeting. It was supposed to be Thursday, but I invited Judge Brian Oakley, who will be there. He said he can be there on Wednesday at 9. You know, he's pretty passionate about this too, but this is our school district. He doesn't run the school district. It's just how we're looking to work together, because I don't want a clown show in the community.
So it's 9 o'clock Wednesday
Yes,
morning.
and I will confirm that for you. Ms. Camilleri will probably
Don't
get
you
that
have
to you.
isn't there a STEAM meeting on Wednesday at 8:30 to 9:30?
Is that what it is?
My calendar.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm just saying, he said to me,
Oh,
we,
okay.
I
You
can't
haven't
come
changed it
unless
yet.
it's on
Okay.
Wednesday at 9.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's important. Okay. I know I invited you to that
Yeah,
one, too.
just let me- yeah, let
You're going
me
to be
know.
busy. Oh, you're going to be
That's
busy.
fine.
Okay.
Should we give our questions to trustee Lasker?
Yeah, sure, or anybody else? Okay, thank you, I appreciate that,
Madam President,
thank you.
I think someone that deals with attendance, I deal with attendance every day. And it's an issue everywhere, but I don't feel like it's a one-size-fits-all, and I don't think we're prepared to launch for November 17th. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm just one person because it's still conflicting. This person is doing this, the secretary is doing this, it's still not, it's not solid. And I think it's like I said at the last board meeting, it's like a SWAT team going in and they're unprepared. You don't have the data. You don't have like all the key players in place, even with the change of the attendance being, everybody is present. We talked about that being a safety issue. Something happens in a school, everybody's just marked present. We don't know what's going on. So it's like the pros and the cons with it. And I just feel like us trying to make that a November 17th thing. And plus, it doesn't affect everyone. Like you said, truancy and chronic absenteeism, two different things. And it's something that we do have to tackle. I think it's a good thing that we're jumping on it and we're doing something about it. We're not just saying, hey, these are the numbers, whatever, but we have to execute it right. And that's just what I'm gonna continue. And I definitely love the work that the community liaisons are doing. They're in the community, they're making the relationships with the families, but I just feel like streamlining it, getting it together before we execute.
Oh, absolutely, so, the date was November 13th, it was a new marking period. If it can't be done, we're not doing it. Just like I thought October, I'm like, well, no, that's not. I mean, it's just really deep, but I'm glad I have the people to assist and still get kids in school. So there's no punishment at this point, nothing like that. Everything is informal at this point. We still have an issue that keeps showing up. If you see the bars that I gave you there, you can see it's an issue, okay? And it will not, you all heard me when I came in February. I said, if you don't launch things correctly, you're doomed. So it's not going to be launched until it's right. And you're part of that anyway, so you'll make sure that it's right, I think.
No, I'm a part of it. I'm just, a support. I'm just
absolutely.
from, it is, as a parent, like I said, I came into that meeting as a parent to listen to the things. When I got that communication, I was just like everybody else. I was like, whoa, I'm not a parent. I make sure my son is on time to school, but things happen. COVID is ramping back up. Do you really want to send a sick kid to school? But you look at it like, I don't want to see Judge Oakley, so go to school. You know what I'm saying? Those are the things that are being said in the community. So we just have to really evaluate what are we really saying to the community. Do we have the support in place? I know we can't provide a cab, but people are struggling. And it is parents that want to get their kids to school and they can't because of many reasons. And I hope that that's what the community liaisons will work with and establish these relationships. But I just feel like we're not prepared to launch this heavy execution of attendance yet.
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you.
Also, just lastly, on that issue, Judge Oakley said that when it comes to citations, he's like, I'm not citing parents when your kid is 15 to 18. He said, I'm going to cite the kid because the kid has a responsibility to get to school too. It can't just be on the teacher. On the parent. So again, we're on the same team. We're on the same team, and we'll have these conversations. And you know what? I appreciate it.
Does that go on their record? Because she just brought that up.
There's nothing that's going to be on anybody's record.
That's not a good look, though.
All right, listen.
You have nothing, but now you have this.
Yeah, I think that there's a conversation. Like I said, he's at the table. That was what he suggested, or maybe that he's like, I can do it. I'm like, well, I can't tell a judge. I don't know. I'm not. But he's sitting at the table. He's like, I want to make certain that kids understand when they say, my mom or the parent says, I can't get them up. That was another thing we had where kids aren't getting up to go to school and the parent's like, I'm trying. I'm like, I'm not going to come after a parent who's trying to get their kid into school and a kid doesn't want to come to school.
Yeah, and
So it's pretty
that's
deep.
different,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
pretty
also the law, like the truancy law, that's held up. It's kind of to the district what they want to do, nothing passed. So it's still, we're putting our names on this.
We are.
Dr. Edmondson, what I've heard is the whole Judge Oakley thing, the problem with parents, the feedback I've received isn't, oh, because it's Judge Oakley. It's because judges work during the day, parents work during the day. So by the time their child misses school 3 times, according to what was sent out, they've got to call off work to go meet with the judge. Or if they don't, it says there'll be criminal charges. And it just got, and so we have parents too who have some volatile family dynamics with ex-spouses and any kind of court interaction that parents going to use. And so we don't want kids taken away from where they're safe, where they're loved, where they're taken care of. And the thing is that we could say, oh, well, we're not going to do it to those people, but whatever we do, we have to do it consistently. So whatever we do, I'm just requesting that we please get data.
Yeah, we are. That's what
And
we're
know
doing.
why students are missing and what would help them, and look at ways to incentivize, while at the same
Got that,
time
too.
educating our students and families about why it's important to be here.
And I appreciate everybody speaking on that in terms of, oh boy, what were you saying? Oh, we had the conversation with Judge Oakley, who was saying, listen, I'm going to have evenings. It's like, I'll do evenings from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. He said, I live here. I live in this community. It's important to me. I'm not going to have a parent come between 9 and 5. He said, I would not do that. So we're just talking, and that's good, and nothing is going to be launched, but for lack of a better term, I said, I've gotten people's attention. And that wasn't purposeful, but at least we've gotten their attention, and people do know that this is serious. So I thank you.
When you're absent, you could have mandatory come to the board meeting. That might do it.
If what?
Instead of meeting with the judge, you got to come to the board meeting.
Oh, please, no. Let me move on. Thank you. Sorry it took so long, and that was the first thing. You know, I just have, thank you, and thank you for the support. I appreciate that. It's not going to be launched. I can promise you, we're not going to do it. I said when it is, but if we're not ready, I'm not going to do it. I can't have it fail. We're not going to have it fail. Just going to try to work out everything, and I would encourage you, or if anybody else that wants to be a part, I'm looking for collaborators, okay? You don't have to have kids to collaborate. Next, I just have bond considerations. Okay, there is no bond. I mean, I know I'm not going to point fingers, but that's a board decision. It's not my decision whether or not you want to do a bond. That's on you. This is your community. I'm working here, and I support this community. But this is your community. You know, if we would be able to pass something, there's things that you have to consider. It's not I don't want to announce what the considerations are, but there are some things that you really should consider before you even think about doing it, i.e. strategic plan. Okay, it's hard to have a bond issue and you don't know strategically what you're going to do. And that's the only consideration that I'm going to put out for right now. There are others that you really have to think about as a board without me saying what they are, but they're really serious because it depends on a lot of people being in their positions to be able to get out in the community. How much work are you willing to do? Those type of questions, because it's a lot, okay? And if we're trying to do 24, I'm like, I'm sorry. Wow, November 24th, like 2020, that's, you'll get the people to come out, but I don't know the community. Would they come out and support something like that? If we again, don't put something out if we're not gonna do it right. So all I did was bring people here to talk about, we have to start thinking about that, bonds start dropping off next year, the following year, okay, and you have about 6, 7, 8 months to plan, and then you gotta go. So just wanted to put that out there. I don't know what the next steps are for the board. I have no idea. Never done a bond. I've done the other things. I don't know what the next steps are, but there would have to be some conversation about, you know, do you want somebody else in front of us? I can get that, whatever you'd like. I'd like to get that out so that we know what direction, or if we're thinking next year or the following year. Next, I wanted to say I sent out, this is social work counselor meetings. Boy, I'm doing a lot this year. Every Tuesday, 1 o'clock, social workers and counselors come here and meet with me. That's not my background. My background is sociology, my undergrad degree. But we're talking about some serious things. And today was another example that I sent out an email at 5 o'clock, a voicemail, about Securely. It's a platform for us, I guess, when kids will say things in Google, or usually Google any of our documents and their emails and things, we get a notice. We get a notice. I'm trying to kill myself. I'm going to shoot this school up. I'm going to do, and there's alerts that come out, and we get them. We get them at all times of the day and evening. They don't stop at 5 o'clock. We still get them at 6 and 7 and 8. So what I put out is we sent them out to about 1,800 parents. We've only gotten 13% that opened it. I mean, 13%, what was it, 13% that opened it, or is it 13%? That signed up for the app. If they sign up for the app, they get the alerts. They're going to get the alerts that they're a kid. It doesn't matter when it is that you wake up and you see something that you're, I mean, we've had incidents where, kids are talking about they're going to hurt their parent. Well, what happens at 8 p.m. when I get that? What am I supposed to do? What is the school social worker supposed to do when they get it at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or a principal gets it? So at the backboard, that's my writing back there. You can see, like we were talking about first steps, who should be the first call? When those things happen, we've had the conversation today where last week, the question was asked, listen, at 9 p.m., I'm a social worker, I get this securely, what do I do? And again, another one like, geez, well, what do you do? I mean, the school district is not held liable. We were talking about not at that time. Now, if you wake up in the morning and you still don't report it, we have some issues. But at 9 o'clock, you get it. The goal was when you get it, the principal's going to get it too, okay? And our goal is, if they're available, to try to get to that parent, okay? But we need our parents to sign up. This is serious. I mean, it's really near and dear without me saying it. It has hit home in this building hard, very hard. And we have people in this building who are being champions for this because they wish that they had gotten something like that, and they didn't.
Can you explain how it will work?
I'll let Adam. I know you're very comfortable talking about securely without.
So, it flags keywords, is what it does. It's attached to the, our Romulus Google accounts, and even staff members too. It will, the keywords like, death, anything self-harm, violence, grief, anything like that, it will flag, and then it will get sent, we can control who it gets sent to. But there's also the parent app side of it too, where, parents can actually have an app on their phone, and get real-time notifications, just like we do. It also allows them, if they take the Chromebook home, if a student takes a Chromebook home, the parent has access to shut that Chromebook off at 9 o'clock at night if they want them to. They can block YouTube if they want. But they have to sign up. And they're already they've already had invitations sent to them, in their emails. As long as parents have their correct email in MyStar, they have the invitation.
We have about 80 parents that don't have an email here.
Yeah, there's
Giving us an email.
a lot that have just left the email field blank. But I can guarantee you that every parent or guardian has an email address, because if you have a smartphone, you have to have an email address.
So can I ask if, I lost my train of thought. So what if the student has a Yahoo account or anything like that? Is that tied into that also, or their Facebook account, or whatever the new current?
Social media, yeah.
Social media?
There's social media, on there, I'm working on getting a piece of that called Auditor, where it reroutes all of the students' emails to Securely First, and then, it'll still, kind of scan for those keywords. If the students are even receiving anything with hate or self-harm or grief from someone else, that will be flagged too.
Thank you.
Give them an idea how many we have, how many we get. I'm just asking you offhand, because we've had the conversation.
Yeah, daily, it's daily. You don't even wanna know what some of the stuff that these kids do. It can be double digits, definitely. Some of them are
So is this only if they're searching on the district device?
They have to be logged into their Romulus account.
Okay, so if there's something going through their Yahoo, their personal account, or Gmail or whatever, we wouldn't see that, but would we if they're logged on to the Chromebook?
District Chromebook
Okay,
or district desktop, any
Yeah.
district-owned device, it will flag.
okay,
If they're at home and they're on their cell phone and they're not logged into the Romulus account, we've got nothing.
right, that was my, right,
If they turn their Wi-Fi off on
Sure.
their personal device in the school district, we don't, unfortunately, there's just no way to keep track of that.
So, Dr. Edmondson, we know the research shows that the number of kids who are self-harming, attempting suicide and successful at suicide is increasing exponentially, especially among females, and the ages are getting younger and younger. So this is good because we can, I guess, know and be aware, but realistically, if as a school or even as a parent, I might see that, but then what? Like, so are we, what are we doing as far as supporting students in schools with the extra money we've got for mental health and for wellness? We've got 107 per student for the last 2 years. Like, are we doing anything with that money? Because this is good identifying, but it might be too late by the time somebody gets that notice. So what are we doing to infuse, mental wellness and mental health supports into curriculum or schools, or the people who get these notifications, make sure that it's getting to somebody? I could get the notifications and I could care. It would break me, but I don't have the capacity to know what to do in that situation.
Well, first, I'd like to thank Adam Dennison, who brought this to us. He was very, very serious about that. So thank you publicly for being the champion for the district on this. We've seen from age 5, didn't we get 5? Is it 5 years old all the way? Yeah, here.
I've done lots and lots of research on this particular, subject. I've lived it myself. It's actually from ages 10 to 24, it's the second leading cause of death. And it's just recently in I believe it's 2021, ages 5 to 9, it jumped into the top 10. So it's very important that we do everything that we can to try and help these kids. And I believe that we are doing. Every Tuesday, I was amazed, and it's very productive. No.
Well, it's kind of a group project here,
it's a
because
group
we have
project.
social workers for the first time, thanks to the board and the work, the HR department and special ed, all of us working hard this summer to make sure that we have resources. If you see, you can't see it over there from this angle, but the social workers are to meet with the students, check in. We want to make sure that they check in weekly with our students. What else do I have on there? Can't even see it from here myself.
Do we have social workers at every building?
Document MyStar.
Yes.
Referrals if needed.
Yes.
For Gen Ed?
I don't know, for Gen Ed, do we have Gen Ed for every building? I think everything is covered.
I asked that because in the past, they
Yeah,
couldn't talk
I
to
know,
Gen
right,
Ed
right.
students.
Yeah,
They had to be on
yeah.
their case
We have
log.
special ed and we have general ed. No, it's not on. So I like
I'm
this,
sorry?
that we are, nice team action. Go ahead,
And
Doc, Dr. Meese.
So we have first of all, good evening, board. We have a gen ed social worker at the high school, full-time. We have a special education social worker at the high school, full-time. At the middle school, same thing. Gen ed social worker and a special education social worker dedicated to the middle school. And then we have splits at the elementary level. But the way it's structured, there's always a social worker in the building. The gen ed social workers and the special ed social workers are assigned to 2 buildings at the elementary level. Presently, we have 7 school social workers within the district. We're still looking to fill 1 gen ed social worker position. Barth and I believe Hale Creek. They're missing the gen ed piece, and that's the piece that we're hiring for. But should an issue arise, the team is ready to go. So everybody knows that this is a collective effort, and that at a phone call, they're all going to support wherever that need might be. So when these folks were hired, I asked HR if they could have access to every building with their badge, so that in an emergency, they can gain entry at any door and go meet the needs of the student. So one other thing, just to clarify, when the Securely message comes through, until recently, I was getting the messages, as was, Adam, and then I would email others. I would email the social worker, whether it was gen ed student or special education student. I would include the school psychologist that's assigned to that building. I would also include administrators, and depending upon the nature of the search, I would include Officer Cofield. If it was a search involving weapons, I would always include him. A search involving drugs, Officer Cofield was always notified. Now the system is set up, because of Adam's efforts, to automatically send those alerts to the pertinent individuals. And we also have a plan in place where the social workers and the psychologists have told the guidance counselors, administration, they've told everybody, let us get this first. Afterwards, so when the alert comes, one of the social workers or psychologists, whoever sees it first, will say, I'm on it. If something comes through and I see it and there's not a notification from a social worker or psychologist that says that I'm on it, then I'm making a phone call saying something just came through.
So
Yes.
I do have a question. So we're at the social worker level, we're at the administration level. At what point, how are the teachers communicating to the social workers? Is it instantaneous? I mean, do you know what I'm asking, Mike, Mr. Hanson? So at what point does the teacher then alert everyone through voicemail, through taking them to the office, to the social worker? The first step is normally the teacher. Teachers don't get that. So you don't catch, you don't
So are you talking about
observe-
if I was wondering if you meant a student confides in the teacher?
Or the teacher makes an observation.
Okay, if the teacher makes an observation, then they have the responsibility of including the mental health professionals
And you can-
dedicated to the building, and also informing administration.
So they
And
have that line of communication also. Okay.
that would be at the building level, and depending upon what they become aware of, they would also have potentially a CPS obligation as well, depending upon what it is that they've learned.
Right, so like I said, it was starting at the social worker level and the administration. Where does it come down to the nuts and bolts in the very beginning?
Yeah.
With the student?
So
That's the
if there's a
communication.
question of suicide, our social workers and our psychologists are administering a suicide assessment to students, obviously including the family, so that they have full awareness. They're also providing community resources, including Corewell Health, who are active within our district in different buildings. So we're doing our best to have a wraparound approach so that we can meet the needs of the students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. So, Mr. Dennison and Dr. Meese and I, every Tuesday, 1 o'clock, this is what we do. We meet with all the social workers, and we have these kind of conversations. Again, it's like putting systems in place, helping support students, helping support the staff on issues that are prevalent in this community. So again, thank you for allowing us to hire social workers, and we're still out there. So if anybody knows of any social workers or soon-to-be social workers, then, let us know. Thank you. Last two things for me. Student activities and school IDs. I want you to know that we're having conversations. We have bought lanyards for every student based on their school, and we expect to have their student ID on there. We want to make student IDs matter to kids, that they need them, potentially to get on the bus. We're really having discussions about activities after school, games. That's very troublesome too. It's very problematic. I'm not saying students are doing things they're not supposed to do, but I know that a parent who trusts their 8th grade kid is going to drop their 8th grade kid off. Now am I going to say you can't do that? So I just want you to know we're talking about it. We want to make certain that every lanyard matters. Every kid's, when they get on the bus, if you're in the community, me, and I ask for your ID, I expect you to give me your lanyard. So we're working on that. Okay, we just want to have systems in place that, that keep kids safe and keep order in our district as well. I think that's important. So I understand that there was a fight this weekend, but that was adults. It wasn't kids. It truly was adults, craziness. But we're on it. So just understand I'll be having another update probably in November about some of the things. If you have ideas, as well as everybody that's out there, if you have ideas on how we should use them, I'm open. I'll be glad to move that forward, but that's a definite.
At one point, we could print the IDs in the buildings. I don't know if we still have those printers available, but
I don't know if it's printers. I think a lot of it comes out of this building now, but it'll be done. I'm excited about, you're gonna need your, I heard that they used to. And then the last thing for me, I told you last week, 2 weeks ago, that I would give you information on strategic planning. I did sign a contract in February with Michigan Leadership Institute. They said they've been waiting for us to give them some direction on when we want to get started on that, and I gave you the sheet, so you have how it will work. But as a board, we're going to have to figure out when we want to do this. If it's done properly, it should be a lot of work. It should be a lot of work, and it's not the board doing the strategic plan. The community has to own the strategic plan. The superintendent does not own the strategic plan except for helping execute it. But if the superintendent leaves, the next superintendent comes in, and that superintendent has the strategic plan, and the board says, follow it. It's that simple. So I know Trustee Ebbets and I have been talking about this for the last, 2 years. Just saying. So we just have to come on with a date. Maybe the next time we have our board meeting, we can open up our calendars and figure out when we want to start that process. And it's in front of you, so take a look at it when you get a chance.
did they give an idea of the length of time, days, locations?
We have some things.
recommending?
We have some things on there. I had gotten information back in February, and I had looked into it, and I'm like, okay, good. And I can find out all the extra information that we might want in terms of how long is it gonna take.
And this would be in place of or in lieu of MASB, correct?
Yes. And again, this was done in February. I don't know if I paid for it back then. I thought I did. I don't know. I thought I did. But I've worked with MLI before. Most of them are former superintendents and have the expertise to do that. So I'm looking forward to it. We need the support of the teachers union. We need the support of our community members to be engaged. And let's hold each other accountable for making certain that we follow this.
Dr. Edmondson?
Yes, ma'am.
Could we ask the representatives who do this training, just if they would come and just do a presentation so we know, and then also reach out to RISA and have them do the same, so we can just hear from different groups what they do and give us a chance to ask questions so we can see what facilitator best meets what we need and where we want to go.
See, you can ask that, but I'm pretty sure based on what you see that I signed the contract, and I had no problem signing this contract
this
because
was
I've
signed.
worked with them before, and I know that they do quality work. So I don't know if I paid for it, though. So if I didn't pay for it, that's
But if
a
we
little bit
signed a
different,
contract,
you know?
we're obligated to
Well,
pay
I'm
for
just
it.
saying, it just says payable in equal installments of 3, and, I had Ms. Camilleri contact them, and they were like, oh, you already signed the contract, or we're already working with you or something, so I'm like, it's time to move forward. But I can still have them come and present to you about what they want to do.
I mean,
or what they
that
do.
would be good, so we can kind of, ask those questions. I guess it's confusing and a little disheartening, because when we talked about it at the table, we kind of talked about different groups, and you said you'd reach out, and maybe we couldn't get 3 to present, but we could get 2, and
I did,
so-
but then
but
I
this
had
was already
Eve called,
done.
and this was already done, and this is something that was important. I don't want you to be discouraged if I do share with you that Michigan Leadership Institute is a leading organization in doing this work.
Right.
Okay? I know you can be disappointed, but I'm just saying that
I'm
you
not
should be pleased
disappointed
that-
in Michigan Leadership Institute. I'm disappointed that the conversation we had was really not a valid conversation.
Well, what I'm saying to you is, I had said that I would contact the companies, and I did contact them. So I asked Ms. Ms. Camilleri to contact them for me again, and they said, this is what we did. They said that, and they gave me this. You signed it. Great. I'm excited about it. And this is the company that I wanted. Anyway,
Well, Mike, my thoughts are, something is better than nothing.
thank you.
We do need
And,
that.
and if
you.
we aren't happy with them, we can do it again. But something,
Thank
I
you.
mean, seriously, if
Yeah.
we can go, if we're not happy with them and we say, as a board, this is not what we expected, this is not what we like, we need to get a second person in here, then we have that option. We're spending money on a lot of things, but nothing is more important than the direction of this district.
That concludes my report. Dang, that was long.
Thank you.
But it was all good stuff.
Next, we have the report of the Director of Teaching, Learning, and Professional Development, Dr. Gardner.
Good evening, Board. What I passed out for you all is a partnership agreement update. I thought it was very important that we pause and make sure you are aware of where we are in regards to the partnership agreement. And so what I have for you is just an overview. At the top, I like to always start with our goals. So our goals are our alignment to our MyKIP plan. It speaks about literacy, mathematics, and professional learning. You've seen this multiple times. I want you to keep seeing it so we're crystal clear in our goals. The next thing I want to speak about are our monthly meetings. And so we have monthly meetings internally with our TOP team, our data coach, and also our administrators who have been identified as either CSI, that's comprehensive and support, or TSI, targeted support. So our CSI school, as a reminder, are our high school and our VOC. Our TSI school will be our middle school. At those meetings, we talk about planning for our upcoming meeting with Wayne Risa, MDE. And so it's important internally that we're all on the same page. We get our questions answered or identify questions for our liaisons for MDE and Wayne Risa. At the meetings with MDE and Wayne Risa, we actually have evidence of our progress with the partnership goals. And so we actually have the MyKIP plan platform opened, and we actually say, okay, this was our target, here's how we're meeting that target, or here's our progress towards that target. So that's how our monthly meetings look like. Our next one will be coming up in a couple of weeks with MDE and Wayne Risa. Item number 2 is our 18-month check-in meeting and presentation. This is a very important meeting because at this point, we'll be at our interim, like halfway mark of our partnership agreement. At this meeting, our team, including our administrators, the TOP team, will present to MDE, Wayne Risa, also members of the board, to actually show what we've done thus far. At that meeting, we'll be actually told if we're on track to meet our goals or not. We'll get a rating, a report, and it'll basically give us feedback. And so we're really working hard right now to ensure we're on track in order to be ready for that meeting, which would be next fall, date to be determined. Then we have the last main meeting and presentation, which will be our 36-month check-in. And that is going to be fall 2025. At that point, we'll be informed if we're either off of the partnership agreement list or we have to continue or be re-identified as a partnership agreement district. And so it's very important, I wanted to make sure you are aware of what's coming down the pipeline. As a team, we're proactively planning, making sure we're monitoring our data, making tweaks when necessary to make sure we're on track. And so that's just the outline of the meetings and key dates. On the next page, we thought it was important to let you know and be transparent. I don't think this is going to happen, but in any event, it does. What happens if we don't meet our targets? if we are re-identified as a partnership district. And so there are some reconstitution measures that we must follow. The number one measure is we must replace the building principal. That's the number one measure. Or we'll have to adopt a new instructional and/or curriculum program. So these were assurances and accountability measures we actually developed as a collective team when we developed our partnership agreement. And so this is what we are actually our key updates and monthly meetings that we have as a team as relates to our partnership agreement. And I just wanted to make sure the board is aware of what's coming down the pipeline and also what to expect. Okay, at this time, I'll take any questions.
So you're telling the board that this team can replace a building principal?
What I'm telling the board is the team, along with our superintendent and other leadership and MDE, made the decision as a reconstitution measure that can be one of the measures that we select. It's not the one that we have to select, but was identified by the team as a whole, including our superintendent and other members of our cabinet, that we can replace the principal.
And will the principals will they have received their review and be ineffective?
I can't speak to that piece
Okay.
at this time.
So then also the question I have, the data coach sent out some statistics saying how much our grade, how we have already improved. And that is the testing compared from last year at this time to now. So in reality, it was the curriculum and the way the teachers started teaching a year ago to improve the scoring now, correct?
So I want to make sure I'm crystal clear. Are you speaking about the data for the middle school? What data are you referring to exactly?
Mr. Rourke sent out an email stating that, oh, we've already got proof that the curriculum is working. So this is scoring from October, November last year to current, correct?
So the data it's referring to is last school year's NWEA fall assessment compared to this year's NWEA fall assessment.
So, okay, so the curriculum and the PD that was done last year has already started moving us toward the improvement of the partnership.
So I don't want to pinpoint exactly what has improved the data. I will say middle school specifically, the culture and climate is a huge piece.
Correct.
Because now you can focus on instruction and learning. So I do want to start there. So I can't speak about what happened last school year. I can speak about what's happening right now. We are part of our last principal meeting where the principal administrative team presented to our principal about the data and how they're using data, using IXL, and they are very serious about the systems at the middle school. I would say those are some things that are impacting the data because of their focus on the data, making adjustments based on the needs of their students and the expectations they have for their staff.
Okay, so maybe I worded it differently. We went into partnership because of our 21-22 school year data, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now is the school year that we received data on this past week is the 22-23 school year. Will that be put toward the improvement of the partnership, or does it start now?
So let me clarify, the middle school is not a partnership, a
I'm
district
not
school.
asking about the middle
Yes.
school specific, I'm talking about the data that we received, saying that we've already made great strides in gaining, in moving forward. So is that already, are we already making strides for the partnership because of the 22-23 school year?
So the data I am referring to is for this school year, for the 23-24 school year. And so to answer your question, yes, we are going in the right direction in regards to our data. Even so specifically, we are a partnership district because of our graduation rate at the high school and also proficiency at the high school, proficiency at the RVOC. Middle school is not a part of the equation for a partnership district. Middle school is only being talked about because it's a TSI school, meaning if we don't do anything differently, they can become a CSI school. So that's why it's great to see they're doing some things differently so we can get into that area of them becoming a CSI school. Now, the high school and RVOC we are putting things in place to move them in the right direction. I don't like to make any definite or any promises, but I do see some things moving in the right direction based on the support from the TOP team. They started officially last week in the schools, supporting teachers with instruction, with the curriculum, providing PD, and so I do see some things in place. Also, having a curriculum is very important as well. So I just want to clarify the data I believe you're referring to is for this school year and not last school year.
Compared, yes, we're measuring like a year behind,
Yes.
from fall '22 to fall '23. So I have a question.
Yes.
So our high school, we were identified as a partnership school because of our graduation rate. And I thought, I know you said 21, 22, but I thought that was based on the 2021 data. See, and I thought it was the 2021, because we were identified as such, and so we get, I mean, the benefits, and I know Dr. Edmondson, isn't a fan of being a partnership school, but there are benefits, the supports, the funding, but for the last 2 years, 2023 and 2022, our high school graduation rate has been in the mid to upper 80%. So I'm not sure, what we're measuring, but for those 2 years, we've increased the graduation rate. The number of credit recovery increased the past year by 400%. So I'm just wondering, what are we measuring? Because if the principal made those strides already, right, what are the other factors? Because replacing a principal, that means undoing relationships, undoing trust, what are the other factors? Has the team looked at the absenteeism and seen, okay, so with the, how does absenteeism factor into the data? What students are, performing low but are also absent and missing instruction? Because again, that's not an individual or a team, an individual or two individuals. That's where we need to come together collaboratively and hear from everyone involved and say, what supports do you need? Even, I've asked this before, have we asked students, what do you need? What supports do you need?
So to answer your question, again, that idea or what was decided by the team is only one measure that we can follow in the event we don't get off the partnership district list.
Sure, and I guess I don't want to focus on that, on a consequence. I want to focus on how does attendance factor into our MyKIP plan? Do we have any data, have we aligned data with those that are chronically absent to see, are those also those who are performing low? Or are students here every day and still performing low? Have we delved into it that way, or are we just going to look at scores and then say we succeeded or we failed? What are the different data? We hear about that, but what data are we specifically looking at? And I guess how often? So will we get updates on the data on the progress, or only when NWEA testing is done?
No. So to answer your question, for the high school, there are two metrics that we'll be reviewing in order to determine if we're on track. So graduation rate, which you've already talked about, and also proficiency on the SAT. That is another measure that we are looking at as well. And that is an area that we definitely need to show improvement in. And so that proficiency piece is huge. So the high school is identified for graduation rate, but because the other metrics that we must consider, proficiency is another piece as well. And so that's why it's important that we get that support to those teachers that's basically providing instruction to the students. To answer your question about the chronic absenteeism, I know that was discussed earlier about digging deeper into the data and aligning. And as Dr. Edmondson stated, the students are not here, they cannot learn, they cannot impact our achievement in a positive manner. So I think that's definitely a collaborative effort in order to look at that data more deeply. But just
And
make sure we crystal clear.
let me add a little bit to that.
Sure.
So the state doesn't care, just so that we're clear. They don't care. They've given us resources. We said we had attendance problems, and guess what they allowed us to do? community liaisons for a reason, to try to support us. So frankly, in 2001, when I was at David Hicks Elementary School as the principal, okay, I had to turn around a school. Otherwise, my head was on the chopping block. Really, was it on the chopping block? I don't know, but that's what they tell you. They tell you as the principal, like, you don't deserve to stay if you can't get this. And with the right supports, I'm not even concerned. With the right supports, and we do what we're supposed to do. But it's always like they always have to kind of threaten you that somebody's got to go, and it's got to be the principal. And every principal is nervous about it. But with our percentages, I'm very comfortable that, as Aaron Rodgers said, relax, we'll be all right. Okay, we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do. Now, I want to answer this. You are absolutely correct, Secretary Piles. I don't like being on a partnership, and I'm going to just say why. I live in a different town. That would be unacceptable in my town to be a partnership school. It would be unacceptable. Parents would not put their kids in a partnership school because of the stigma that comes with it. It's unfortunate, okay? We can beat it, but you know what? If we can get through some of the problems, I believe that we can beat that. You know, graduation rate, that seems rather easy. Came around COVID time, I get that, okay? I'm convinced that won't even be an issue, and it shouldn't be an issue. You have 140 kids, we can't graduate 140 kids. I'm serious, and we have things in place where kids can get credits, they have to do their part, and if they do their part, the goal is to get off of the partnership. I like the fact that we get support, financial, and MDE I feel like they should just set up shop here. Every time I look, they're here. And Dr. Gardner's team and the partnership agreement and her whole team is here and the principals are all here. Everybody knows, okay? And it's not putting the high school that it's only the high school. Okay, as we have said, this is a district thing. You don't look at Mr. Petty and say, man, it's not his fault. It's not his fault at all, okay? It's a district issue, and when we attack it as a district issue, that's why all the principals are there, okay? Because we know the seriousness of this. But again, clearly, I don't want to be a partnership school. Thanks for all the supports, but I'd rather not have the partnership designation. So I'm hoping that we can get off of that. So I just want to be clear. No, I don't. You are absolutely right.
Yeah, I know. So when we talk about
just wanna
graduation
clarify
rate,
one thing. So, board member Piles, you are accurate. It is a high school identifies as a CSI school due to the low graduation rate in 2020-21. So that is accurate. Just want to confirm that piece. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I thought it was like some time back, and we've made that. So, so if we're looking at graduation rate and proficiency on SAT, so I guess what factors are in that, right? Because graduation rate, we know our graduation rate is low because some students have left and never returned, but we have their CA 60. And so that counts against us when we look at the graduation rate for the 4-year and 5-year cohorts. So do we have, is anybody looking at that data? Like, how many CA 60s do we have, but we haven't seen the student in years? The other thing is the proficiency on the SAT, but we keep hearing that we don't have science curriculum, we don't have social studies curriculum, and at some point we're going to assess that and get it. And for me, this isn't about the adults, this is about the kids. Like, how many years are we going to go through where we say, oh, we've got to increase the graduation rate or proficiency, and yeah, we do, but what does that look like? What goals do we set to accomplish that objective?
I have a
Because
great
kids are
answer.
losing years of their lives.
I have a great answer. I think that will settle this too.
And I have something else to add to your answer.
Invite Secretary Powell to your meeting, and she can ask all these questions, and anybody else that wants to come, please come. Please, we encourage you to come. But she's got great questions. Maybe the same way that I invited you all, I'd rather have you be a collaborator at the table than this. So I would encourage and I would encourage you, Secretary Powell, to come on. Come on to these MDE meetings. You can give her the time when we have them, and then she can be a collaborator with us.
I do want
Those
to
are great
clarify one
questions.
thing, because this is the second time I've heard this about us not having curriculum for various content areas. A reminder, it's not about the curriculum resources, it's about the standards. It doesn't matter what curriculum resource or package you receive, as long as we're teaching to the standards, that's what the tests are based on.
Right.
And so that's something I want to just clarify. I've heard someone say we don't have a guaranteed and viable curriculum. We have the standards. I can throw any curriculum resource at any teacher, but but they don't know the standards and how to teach to the standards, our data is not going to grow. And so I just want to make sure I clear that up for anyone else who keeps mentioning, we don't have this curriculum resource, we don't have this curriculum resource. Okay, but we have the standards, and we will move forward with the standards, providing PD to our teachers to impact those standards and also teach them in order to impact our achievement data. So I want to end with that, and definitely invited to our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have an action item for the Romulus Middle School trip to Washington DC and Gettysburg. Move that the Board of Education approves the Romulus Middle School trip to Washington DC and Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on May 28th through May 31st, 2024. The rationale is the Romulus Middle School trip to Washington DC and Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on May 28th through the 31st. The Board of Education needs to approve the out-of-state field trip. Budget implications are none. This is a fundraiser and the cost is covered by the students. Is there support?
Support.
Discussion?
Can we go?
I'm going.
We
Trustee
go.
Laster.
Asking.
Thank you. We can-
Yes, on a Monday board meeting, please.
So I do
My-
have a question.
Oh, no, yours is. I'm just saying.
Preschool to 12th grade.
What is the cost per student? There are no costs quoted on here other than a $200 deposit and payments are due.
Good question. I have to receive the same information you received around which the data that's breaking down in regards to the numbers. So I do not have that number per student. I
We
can
can't,
get that
we
to you.
can't approve this until we know what it's costing.
Okay.
Okay? It's very clear on the form, cost per student, and it doesn't, there's a $500 swing from $999 to $1,499. Fundraisers are paying, okay, and that's wonderful. That is wonderful. But there are things in here too that I have concerns about on your own touring. You see coupons are given for meals, yet you stop at another restaurant, it says the meals are included. Are there charges? Thank you, Eve. Are there charges associated, a specific dollar amount for the food? So here is what, these questions should have been part of this, okay? The board looks at the field trip form. Also, what is the ratio of student to adult for middle school students?
What I would say, if you can give me those questions, I can definitely get the answers for you and bring them back to the board.
All right, because
You're
it says,
welcome.
yeah, it says 52 to 88 kids, all right? Well, number of students, 52 to 88. You have 5 chaperones. Even at 10 per chaperone, if there's 88 kids, that only covers 50 students.
Zavitz, what were you saying about the food? Because I'm looking at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It reads that there's 3 meals included.
Correct, but they go into a restaurant, okay? Hard Rock Cafe, are they limited to how much they can spend? For lunch, there's a meal coupon. Are they told you can spend $10 at Hard Rock Cafe and the rest is on your own? Or is it an all-inclusive? I mean, I'm just, some kids will show up with no cash. Some kids will show up with no cash, okay? And then there's others that will show up with hundreds of dollars.
Are there
And
any-
they will be
are
eating
there any
whatever they
teachers
want.
here to discuss or answer some of the questions?
They are here, but my recommendation is that you put those questions down for me, and I will get the
And
answers
then we
to
I
can,
will
you.
send
we
you
can
an
bring it,
email.
we can bring it back to the next meeting. That way we have the information.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
What
I'd
will
just
that,
like to,
Pardon me? Excuse, we can bring it back for it to be voted on. You can't say we can't bring it back, because without the board approval, the trip can't go. I understand what you're saying, but legally,
we actually have a meeting, don't we, on the 19th of this
we have a
month?
meeting on the 19th.
So we can bring it back on the 19th? So we need to submit all the questions and,
I'll submit them back tonight.
Right.
Okay, just briefly. Ms. Haas and Mr. O, thank you. Okay, it's been a long time since I've been here. I've not seen an overnight trip in front of me. So I want to thank you. I'm sorry if it wasn't received right with Ms. Haas too. I appreciate the fact that you're thinking about our kids and giving them an experience. Many of our kids haven't even been out of the state. So thank you. We'll do the best that we can. I can tell you that. We'll do the best that we can. I'm sure you'll be able to answer every question that is asked of you. And I'm going to support you 110% because I need our kids to have this opportunity. So
I
thank
want
you.
it clear that I do support the kids
I'm
going,
not saying
okay?
that.
But I want to make sure that we know how much our kids are
You're right.
charging, where the fundraising is coming from.
You're absolutely right. I'm just saying I want to thank them for that. Okay.
And you are, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Come to the mic, please.
Come to the mic, please. Thank you. Thank you.
The teacher that used to do this before, prior to COVID, before it was stopped, is retired. So we both jumped into it back in this way. Hey, we need somebody to set this back up. And Amanda and myself jumped into it. Ms. Hobbs, who's the 8th grade social studies teacher at the middle school, jumped into it and says, yes, we will do it. We will work together. And it's been a lot. And I do want to thank, I know Dr. Gardner has been tremendous in trying to lead us in the right direction. But there are a lot of components coming to this. We have thought of a ton of fundraising trips where $1,000 per person. That's it. That's the minimum. That's where 4 in a room. That's where that came out to be. Where the prices go up is if somebody wants a single room, that's the $1,400. That's where the tiers come up. It's how they want to be. You know? But we've done enough where if a student participates in enough of the fundraisers, it shouldn't cost them anything. I've got fundraisers from Schwartz's where it doesn't cost, you buy a $25 gift card, the person gets 25, we make 5. I mean, there's a lot of different fundraisers where it should not cost the students any money.
So this is the price per student on this document.
Yeah,
Wow.
the $9.99 is if you're getting into
Four
room of
people.
4, but that includes everything that's on there, and we will break it down more on what, because when you bring the question up, it's like, okay, I see how the travel agency didn't seem to break down how much they get to spend at Hard Rock Cafe, and that's something we do need to work.
It might be a special menu that they provide to them,
Most
okay?
likely.
But again,
I know we went through a reputable travel agency. I know that Ms. Haas has gone to and contacted people from other districts who have done this trip, so I know it is also, it's just not spelled out. I know it's all there. We'll just have to locate it for you. So if you could please get us up any list of questions, and we'll get it back to you immediately.
well, yeah, I see this and, it's, okay,
Okay?
I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have our governance training, which is next Monday. So we get those questions answered. We can bring it back and put that on our agenda to get that done, which will be Monday the 16th. Okay? I'm tabling it till the 16th. Okay? So we're motioning to table this till the 16th.
Madam President, point of order. We actually have to make a motion to postpone it to next meeting instead of tabling it.
Thank you. So we're gonna postpone this.
Done my reading.
So we're gonna postpone this vote till Monday the 16th. We'll add it to our agenda for.
you're
governance
making
training.
that motion?
Yes.
Are you supporting the
Support.
motion?
Roll call.
Wester, the motion is to postpone this action until next Monday, the 16th. Wester,
Governance, China.
governance training.
Hopefully we have a quorum, so that's the thing. Sorry.
Yes.
I hope.
Okay, so the 16th.
Okay, you said yes?
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Piles, yes. Evans,
Yes.
Laster,
Yes.
McCarthy.
Yes.
Motion carries, and whoever said yes has to be here Monday.
Next.
Next on the agenda is the report of the Director of Human Resources, Kevin Brock. We have an action item. Excuse me. October 23rd, baseline policy manual for Miller Johnson. Would someone read that motion, please?
Madam President, move that the Board of Education approves the October 2023 Baseline Policy Manual from Miller Johnson, Budget Implications None, Exhibits Policy Manual.
Is there support?
Support.
We have a motion by Davis, supported by McCarthy. Any discussion?
Madam President, I just want to make sure in regards to the policy that it was to my understanding that we were keeping our current policy and just updating it with new legal updates. I want to make sure that is what's happening and we're not starting over with the baseline policy.
Correct.
But we don't have the strike-through copy to know what changes were made. And if if it's just legal, then there shouldn't be any strike-through, and we should have the original policy book and be able to compare the changes. I mean, there's names and designees that are blank. You can't vote on something that, follow the link, insert what link. Superintendent appoints somebody, nobody's in there. There's all kinds of names. This isn't complete, and I would like to receive a copy of the strike-through to know what has been changed, if anything.
So, Madam President, you said that what we received is our current policy, the current policy we have, and that the only difference is the legal updates? Because I thought the email said that this was a baseline policy, which would actually undo all of our policy additions, and it would just be baseline with the legal updates.
Now, I'm not the attorney.
But you made the statement, though.
But do you know, like, what we're
We read the
approving?
statement.
You play one at the board table.
Right. Mr. Schindler, can you come up to the mic, please? I can. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Schindler.
Right. Work for your money.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I wasn't prepared to speak on this evening, but I'm here, and so I'm happy to answer questions. Is it not on? Hello?
Gotta hit the green button.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
So my question was, good evening, Mr. Schindler.
Good evening.
My question was, if we have a policy in front of us, there's blanks that are highlighted with no fill-in, and if we're changing, then we should have the strike-through copy to know what has been deleted or updated.
So if what you have before you is the baseline policy, which I'm assuming it is, because I know that my office worked with Mr. Brock to get a copy of our current baseline policy manual over to the district. The baseline policy manual is generally our starting point, right? So, thank you. Meaning, if you were a brand-new policy client, this would be the starting point right now. It has everything, all the updates that we've put in over the years in it, but it is not Romulus specific. So again, in terms of fill in the blanks, who the Title IX coordinator is, what your timelines would be for certain things, et cetera, that is not gonna be in a baseline policy. So I haven't talked to any board members about this motion tonight, so in terms of what is looking to be done with the baseline policy manual at this point, I can't speak to that, but I can speak to what it is and how we would proceed from here generally.
So, Madam President, this is a basic model car, and as board members or the policy committee, we can add to it.
So I'm thinking we should, this is the first that we're using this, bringing it, so is this something that you wanted to discuss at your policy meeting to
So-
get us on the right track, to make sure everything was unison?
At our last policy meeting, we talked about keeping our current policy and just updating it with new legal updates. I did not think we were starting over from just, what do you call it, bones? I
Bare
did not-
bones.
Bare bones.
Bare bones.
I'm sorry. I didn't think we were starting over. I thought we were keeping our current Romulus policy with Miller Johnson and updating it with new legal updates. I thought that was the discussion.
There is,
What is that? What is that, Ms. Evans?
I'm not going to.
I said there's changes with attendance for board members. And, yeah, where did that verbiage come from?
Okay, so, Madam President,
What he stated was this was like the baseline that Miller
But
Johnson.
if we vote on this, does it become?
it
does
becomes our
become
policy.
what- Does it become
Yes.
the new policy?
yes.
No, what I'm trying to clear up is to figure out what it was we were doing. I know, because I wasn't at the last policy meeting, was that Vice President McCarthy wanted us to have our policy with the updated legal, whatever updated legal changes there were, so we can go through and review everything.
Okay.
So, listening to everything, I wasn't at the last meeting, we really want the updates, current updates to the policy so that we can review everything and make sure that we're aligned so that we can get our policies up to date.
With any strike-throughs?
So, Madam President, if I may, I know we have not had legal updates. We missed I think the September 2021 or November 2021. We missed a 2022, and we missed a June or July 2023 legal update, and there may have been another. So while, yes, we need to review our policy, there are some legal requirements
Right.
that are non-negotiable, and they need to become effective. So I would request that those legal updates that by law we must have in policy that we are now lacking, that we approve that tonight. Because those are things that we should have had before, and we don't. My other concern is at looking at, normally we do get the red strikeout version. So if you look at the table of contents for what is presented before us tonight, these red marks are everything that has been changed, that the board has not requested to be changed, or the committee. So it's if you go through and you compare our current policy to this baseline, this is what you see. All of these changes were required of Miller Johnson. So, and Mr. Brock, I appreciate the work you do, but my question, Madam President, is this is the board's policy. So why did somebody go outside of the committee, the board committee, and ask Miller Johnson to change all these policies, and then have us then put it on the action? This is mine, I can share it with you. And then put it on the agenda tonight, not for review and for discussion, but for action, waiving the first reading. I assume that would have been, in order to take action, there would have had to have been a motion and a vote to waive the first reading. And all of this is like, we keep saying we're going to be more transparent. We say we're going to be accountable, but this board policy, the board's policy, was changed without the board's knowledge, and we're supposed to approve blank documents tonight.
Okay, real quick, nothing was changed. Our firm was asked for the baseline policy manual, the current, up-to-date baseline policy manual, and that is what was provided.
Right.
Romulus policies weren't modified. There is no changes. You may have done a compare and contrast. I don't know what that is, but we didn't change anything. We provided a baseline policy manual. Now, as far as the process goes, there are a lot of ways that we can do this. Depending on how either the policy committee or the board wants to move forward, we have the ability to take So, also, I guess in terms of trustee Piles, your statement earlier about trying to get in what's legally required, that's difficult to say at this point right now, standing here, in part because our updates, when we send those out, in some cases contain things that are legally required to be updated, and in some cases are suggested modifications, right? We have situations where districts come to us over and over again and say, hey, we'd like a policy on one thing or another, right? On threat assessment. So we create a threat assessment policy, and we add that to our baseline policy manual, and we send it out as an update for those who don't have that in their policy manual, and we explain what it is, and we say, you can put this in, you cannot, here's why we recommend it, and here's where we recommend that it goes. So I can't tell you of those 3 or 4 or 5 updates that you talked about, how much of that is legally required and how much isn't.
Okay.
So we couldn't say, yes, put all those in tonight, because that's all legally required. I can't say that.
Okay.
Now, what I could also,
So, Mr. Schindler, if I may, our old policy read, "The board is represented in all labor negotiation proceedings by a negotiating team. The board approves all members of the team prior to the start of negotiations."
Okay.
What's presented for us to approve tonight? What section are you in? That had, 0003.
okay,
This is our bylaws. That has been stricken, and new language is, "The superintendent shall select the bargaining team for the school district." So that is a change.
okay, but
Where
my,
is that at?
and I don't know, because
Look at the
mine
new
doesn't have,
policy.
the copy that Eve just gave me doesn't have strikeouts, it's a copy of
Right,
the base
there's no
policy
Okay.
manual.
strikeouts on here. I guess, thank you, Mr. Chandler. I guess my question, Mr. Brock, is, was this supposed to be presented for us to review with our policy so that we can get things aligned up? And maybe this wording was wrong on this.
So good question. Let me share with you what my understanding was. When we first met as a policy committee, we were aware that we were so far behind in updates. In conversation with Mr. Schindler and his office, because we were so far behind, his recommendation was to start over on a baseline policy. At our last meeting, I jotted down baseline policy. It wasn't until last week when I was asked for the policy, I reached out to Mr. Schindler's office. I got a baseline policy because that's what I understood we needed to do. And to move forward, he offered some dates and times that he's available to work on the new policy to fill in the gaps that we have, because we are so far behind. And all I did was get this and forward it to Ms. Camilleri, who then sent it to you all. I had no hand in any of this. I want to be very clear. I asked for a baseline policy because that was my understanding of what the committee was moving forward with.
So I guess it goes back to my question. The purpose for this technically is to approve the use of this so that we can get with our policy committee and we can go through and make sure our
That's
policy.
one option. That's one option.
We're not approving this because it's blank.
And I
it's
don't
not
have that
right.
answer. That, I provided what I thought was being asked of me through Mr. Schindler's office. If that was wrong, then it was my misunderstanding, because I did not get the perception that we could update what we currently have because we're so far behind. And that was in conversation with Mr. Schindler and another attorney from Mr. Schindler's office regarding our current policy, because we are so far behind in updates.
Behind in what?
The updates.
Could we get a
Legal
list of
updates
those?
that have been emailed to the board on a regular basis from Miller Johnson? They
Whatever
just-
suggested
They
legal
just weren't
updates
put
there.
into the policy
I
book?
can't speak to that. I
Okay.
don't know. I
Okay.
can't speak to
No,
what was here before. I
So,
can
Madam
only say-
President, I guess I'm confused because the committee reported, the committee had a committee meeting on September 11th and came back and reported to the board that the recommendation of the committee was to keep the current policy and to add to it any legally required updates.
That's
to
my
that.
question.
That's what that's what was
I
reported.
think we're saying the same thing here. That's kind of like my question. If we have their current baseline policy that has the updates in it to use with ours to make sure.
But as
That's the
Secretary
question I'm trying
Piles
to
just said,
ask.
Secretary Piles stated that and correct me if I'm wrong, that the committee said we are staying with our current policy. This is starting from scratch. Baseline is starting from scratch.
Correct.
In addition to, there's options in here. I know our policies don't have options.
That's,
It did originally?
Originally, yes.
Originally,
it started,
a baseline policy.
Correct, but if
Right.
we keep out, but if we keep our current policies, in our current policy, there isn't an option page. Okay, that's what I'm saying, though.
Because again, the baseline is the starting point.
But we were told at a meeting that the policy committee was keeping the policy that we currently have in place and only updating the legal requirements. That's what we were told in OMA. So to bring a baseline, we're confused.
Okay,
To start over, we're confused.
sure. And I can't speak to that confusion. I'm just telling you what you have in your hands. So
Right.
what I can do, I'd be happy to do, to help add some clarity, is we have a copy of the 2021, the latest version that was approved by this board. I would be happy to have someone in my office do a compare and contrast between our current baseline policy or the updates that we've had since and your current model.
That would be great.
thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Madam President, if specifically, just so we're clear on what everybody wants. And Mr. Schindler, is it, since August of 2021, there have been some policy changes that legally the board needs to approve, but then aren't there also some recommended optional ones?
Correct.
Okay, so Madam President, if we could get all, both the ones that are legally required that we don't have in current policy, as well as anything else that was recommended or optional.
I'd be happy to just get copies of all of the update memos that we've sent
Yes.
since
That
then
would be
as
fine.
well.
Yep,
And that would give you, if all we're worried about is the updates, then we can do that. I can get copies of all of the update memos that we've sent since August 2021, and provide those to the board.
okay. I can forward those. We have the memo updates here too, so.
So are we still talking about them going through and doing the compare
needs-
and contrast?
Right.
Do I compare and
him to
contrast,
have
or
what
do you
it-
want the
Compare and
updates?
contrast, right.
Right. That's what I want to make sure, because it sounds like we were trying to get this to compare,
Oh, it
to
sounds
make
like,
sure
yeah.
that we had the updates together and everything wording-wise was kind of
So do you want to?
misconstrued.
Well, I don't know that, I mean, I guess I don't know that we need that if all we're worried about is the updates, because I can get the updates. If we're worried about trying to take a look at the manual as a whole, that's a different process and
Right.
the like. And so,
So do you
I think
just
if we did a
want,
compare and contrast, and then we also did all of the updates, that might get a little bit much and
lot.
right.
confusing.
So
I
are we
think
looking
the
to
best
just get
first
the
step would
comp?
probably be just to send all of the updates.
Updates.
And the
to the
committee can
board.
look at the updates and we can go from there. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
When will we, okay, so when do we see the contrast, the compare and contrast?
Between what?
Well, what he's saying is it's,
What I have here versus our policy that is currently in existence.
We can do that
Why-
without
I
legal
guess-
fees.
Okay,
We can do that, I can go through it, yeah.
you have a copy of
Yeah.
it?
And so we can do that without incurring legal fees.
Okay,
Right.
very good.
You
Okay,
don't incur legal fees anyway when it comes to
Oh,
the
that's right,
policy
for
service. 'cause
policy,
the
that's
policy
right, we
service
don't.
is
You're
a
looking
flat
at
fee
the word.
program.
right.
That's right. Thank you.
And I guess I just, as far as a compare and contrast, you're free to do that, we can do that for you. I guess I just don't understand the purpose if we're not worried about that, because again, this is just a baseline. This is a starting point. If you were a brand-new client, this is what we would use to start with. There's no point in doing a compare and contrast if you don't really care what's in here because you want yours just with the updates.
correct. Okay,
So,
so,
because
as
things
a-
like, for example, to your question as to the policy 003 and the negotiating team, that language relative to the superintendent selecting the team, that's our usual language.
Right. Well, that.
But Romulus chose different language.
Right, yeah. And so just for board members, for historical perspective, we used to have Neola. And it was like thousands of pages of policy, and we didn't really know policy, and we had to look through this big, thick manual. So over the course of a superintendent and an interim superintendent, the board voted to reach out to, was Lusk Albertson at the time, to go through our Neola policy and make it condensed, but cover things and make it specific and beneficial and relevant to Romulus Community Schools. So at that time, 2017, 18, Kevin Sutton and his team spent like full days, multiple days, pouring through our, all these pages of Neola policy and then streamlining it. We had a lot of meetings, and you may have still been on, you may have come on the board because I carried over into Hall and Judy, and we had a bunch of meetings, like bringing this through and streamlining it and having readings, and so, yeah, I would hesitate to just throw that all away, and go back to baseline and try and build again. I know, Dr. Edmondson, you've stated, where we don't care about other districts and being like them, we're targeting Romulus and what we need. So that's just the history of why we went from Neola to not just Miller-Johnson, but specialized policy.
Thank
So,
you.
can I request a copy of the current policy be emailed to all board members?
Correct.
The current policy that's in place. Thank you.
Make sure we get that, and then we'll get all of the updates and changes since 21, and then we can review. And
What is the date of our current policy, Debbie?
We, August,
2021.
and then by the time it got turned in, the board voted in July of 2021, or big first week of August 2021, and then the signed minutes got sent in. So I think the date that's on there is September of 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schindler.
Madam President, I have to say this, okay? I just, at some point, there's just a lack of respect, dignity, courtesy at this table. Okay, we have visitors here, they get pounced on. The way we speak to each other, they get pounced on at some point. And you are the president. And I'm not putting you out here, but it's on display all the time. And I try to keep myself, I try to be Dr. Edmondson when I'm here, because I know Ben Edmondson would not tolerate some of the stuff, the way people talk to each other. At some point, and I've said, well, we need to have a meeting, we don't meet. We need to have a retreat, we don't have a retreat. At some point, and I don't even know if that's ever going to happen, I don't know if we can get over it, but there's a lack of courtesy, a lack of that has to be addressed amongst us. It's not just a protocol meeting at this point. There's just, people don't deserve to be, personally, I took exception, like Miss Secretary Powles, when you're like, who authorized this? And that's how you did it. Who authorized? As though, I don't know if it was me, maybe I just take it personally. Like, I'm not trying to jam you up or jam the board up. I'm not. I try the best that I can do. Sometimes we don't get along. We already know that. But just the way that it's said, I'm like, sometimes we just need to pull back and listen. We don't always have to hit the accelerator. Sometimes you hit the brake, okay? I've had a tough day, and then I come here, and then you feel like you got beaten up on, or I watch my folks get beaten up on. I'm just asking for just a little bit of courtesy from the board. Nobody is trying to make your life miserable. I'm not, and I don't think you're trying to make my life miserable, but I think we can do a little bit better. That's all I'm asking, if we can just try to do a little better and be kind to one another. That would be nice.
Absolutely.
Madam
I'm not
President,
calling you out.
I'd like to withdraw my motion from the table.
Support. Next on the agenda, we have,
Do we need to do it?
can we do a roll call vote, please?
To withdraw that
He
motion.
rescinded the motion.
And that was Davis. And who, did you support?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Piles, yes. Evans?
Yes.
McCarthy?
Yes.
Laster?
Yes.
Wester?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next on the agenda, we have Dr. Gitzinger here with a financial report.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
In your board packet, you have September's financial statements. It shows the operating results of the first quarter of our fiscal year. And this was part of the commitment that I made to the school board, that you would have 9 financial statements in your board packet each month, September through May. And so I just wanted to just give a quick overview of those financial statements. The first page past the cover is the general fund.
I don't think it was sent to you maybe in an email. I just asked her, I saw her today, and I asked her, could she come up to the board and maybe explain those things?
okay.
She sent them this weekend, I think.
Okay, then
Maybe
we'll
we
pull them
gotten
up, yeah.
So sorry about that.
Because it wasn't on the
Just
agenda.
pull it up.
I'll talk fast. Just let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you had budgeted for $39.8 million of revenue in the general fund. So far, you've collected $7.8 million. You had budgeted $40,400,000 worth of expenditure. So far, you've spent $5 million. I'm not sure if you're aware, but in the budget, we had planned to use up about $500,000 of our fund balance. I did not prepare your district's budget. It was prepared by somebody else. However, I will be the one that will be amending your budget. So you can look forward to a solid amendment once that time comes. Second page is the cafeteria fund, budgeting $1.7 million worth of revenue. You've only collected $16,000. We've had not very many school days in the month of September, so your collections are low, not to mention a lot of the revenue also comes from free and reduced lunch in our district. So it's not as if the cash collections come through with students going through the food service program. $1.6 million in expenditures, you spent about $100,000 of that. We have a balanced budget in the cafeteria fund with the idea that we're gonna put about $15,000 into your fund balance from your original budget. Third page is your sinking fund, often referred to as your building and site fund. It's funded by property taxes, by the support of our community, generates about $1 million, $1.4 million in revenue every year. You have 100% summer tax collection, so all of your revenue is received quickly, and then we get it fast, and then we can spend it throughout the year, as opposed to a summer-winter tax levy where it could be split across the tax levies. We have a fund balance in our sinking fund of $1.1 million, and we're projected to put about $150,000 into fund balance at the end of this year. The last page is your debt service. It accounts for the long-term obligations of the district, and the revenue going in there is from your property taxes, and the expenditures going out is nothing but the principal and interest payments on your long-term debt. And that is all of the funds that the district has, and so you have September's financial statements there. Are there any questions for me about the financial statement or anything finance-related?
I just have, it's an observation / comment. So in February, we had roughly a 19% fund balance. When the budget was created, we were at 8, and now you're projecting 11, or you're quoting 11. How can we go through such a fluctuation in our fund balance?
So I didn't prepare your original budget. I can't attest to any of the numbers in this document, and I have found a few things that I would have budgeted for differently, so I'm not able to answer your question.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Regarding the debt service fund, these numbers that we have, is this current or is it as of last June 30?
It's as of September 30th.
Okay.
Yep, so you see the date at the top of the financial statement. It says
Right.
for the 3-month period ending September 30, 2023.
Okay. And what is the cap on the debt that this district can carry?
So that is a question that was put in our Google document, which is what I respond to when a board member has a question, because we had agreed to that at the Finance Committee meeting. And that number is $195 million. If you check the Google
Okay.
document, that question has been answered.
Great.
When will we get an update on the audit?
The audit is underway right now. Thank you for asking.
Okay.
I meant to give a little report about that. We have been getting not very many questions from our auditors. I'm getting the sense that they're getting ready to wrap the audit up. The records are not in great shape, but they're auditable, and we're looking forward to a super clean audit next year.
Thank you.
I have one more question. When we approved the preliminary budget for 23-24, we noticed that some of our big expenditures, such as transportation, we budgeted for $600,000 less. And so we were confused by that, because I know that the transportation costs are at least constant, if not more, but we as the board had made it a priority to start providing more transportation for students who stay for after-school activities. So when that budget amount was decreased by $600,000, and we had asked about that, we were told that, well, grant money wasn't known, and when it was known, then that number would go up. But I guess I'm confused because we budget on estimated revenues for grants. So have you looked at what our transportation budget needs to be and how much is coming in from grants versus how much we need to pull from general fund for that?
So I agree with you, Trustee Piles. If you're anticipating that you're going to be receiving a grant, you should budget for that anticipated revenue as well as what you think your transportation costs are going to be for the entire year with or without grants. And again, I can't speak to what's in your projected budget because I did not prepare it, but I plan to give the budget a very hard look when I get ready for the budget, mid-year budget amendment.
Okay, and when will you give that? Do you give it in the fall or early?
So we wait for the pupils to be counted, which we're in the process of, and all of our teachers are in place now. So I generally begin the budget process towards the end of fall and usually have the board approve it in January, which is the mid-year mark of the
Okay,
school district,
thank you for that.
school year.
Thank you, Dr. Gitzinger.
Yeah, and thank you for this.
The payables.
Oh, Dr. Gitzinger, can we have you come back to the mic, please? Go ahead. I forgot.
So in our motion for payables, because we don't have a contract with Jewel Claire, we were asking if we can change the motion for your name as the recommendation for payables.
So Jewel Claire is, yes, you can.
Okay.
Jewel Claire is a contract through the district on an hourly basis until the board approves her engagement letter. And I, again, don't have anything to do with how you function with that contractor. We are separate.
Okay, but if we don't have a contract, we don't, we need to approve it by someone that's employed by us officially.
Not employed by the district either. I'm a contractor as well.
Well, okay, you're a contractor, but we
But
have a
with an approved
contract with you.
contract.
You do have an engagement letter with me.
Yes,
So do we approve Dr. Gitzinger, or do we approve your company?
Whatever your
We can do
desire
her.
is.
we can do her.
Okay,
As recommended by. And then the other question we had asked, and Dr. Edmondson said, we had asked when Jewel Claire's contract would come to us for approval.
and she just said she doesn't know because it's a separate entity.
That's a separate
Right,
entity.
but earlier, Dr. Edmondson, didn't you say you didn't know, and that was a question for Dr. Gitzinger, so can we have that on the next agenda? Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so move that the Board of Education approve the bills of payment as outlined below from Dr. Gitzinger. These bills are lawfully incurred debts of the school district and should be paid in a timely manner. Budget implications are various funds for check registers dated 9/21 through 10/3/2023, and wires report 9/21 through 10/3 of 2023, in the amount of $996,773.31.
Support.
Evans?
Yes.
Piles, yes. Laster?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
McCarthy?
Yes.
Wester?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Dr. Gitzinger. Report of board subcommittees.
So I met with Dr. Edmondson, Mr. Brock, Mr. Garland, and who else was there? Oh, and Jewel Claire. So we went through the sinking fund, reviewed income, expenditures. There's a few things that were brought up about what we might want to do for the remainder of the school year and what the finances are available. It is coming forth, we're going to be receiving some quotes for projects that we can look at to make sure we're within our budget for the year. And also, just to let everyone know, we're meeting on a monthly basis. So once a month, with working with Dr. Edmondson and the team, I'll be bringing forth some, kind of as the facilities committee, but this was just about sinking fund. Okay?
Thank you.
The policy committee will meet October the 30th, 2023 at 5 p.m.
Finance Committee will be meeting after we get word back from the audit, because I feel like that'll be more beneficial. We'll get the questions in from board members. Hopefully they're being answered. Thank you, Dr. Gistinger, and then we can provide an update. HR Subcommittee, we'll get back to you.
I didn't see it earlier. We had amended the agenda and added properties.
I know. I was
Okay.
getting ready to do that now. Trustee Evans, you wanted to add properties in board table. If you'd like to bring it up and discuss, please.
Sure, I would like to make a motion that there's a new budget line item for funding of the sale of the properties, and it would be for new programs for students. The description would be to be utilized for all property sales for the new programs approved by the board, so that we know where these monies are going and for new student things. And then another, do we have to vote on?
I'm sorry, yeah, would you, if you're making a
Read that
motion,
again,
can you
sure.
read that again?
Motion that a new line item a new budget line item be created for entitled New Programs for Students. The description would be to be utilized for all property sales for new programs approved by the board.
Student programs?
Correct.
Support. Is there discussion?
I mean, you're looking at me, I'm like, okay.
That mean,
Yeah, me too,
With
that's
the-
what I want.
Well, we have potential sales of properties coming in. And there's often comments from the public, what are we doing for students? You're not voting for anything for students. This is a decent amount of money that we can put forth for new programs, because we know there's a lot of things that you have in mind that you would like to bring forward, right? And if we have this funding, then we can use them for that. And I think it's,
Yeah. That makes, okay.
right, let's see. Yeah, I just think that it's a good expense out there for new things.
Any other questions, comments? Marcel, you're kind of looking really hard.
What?
He's thinking, he's blinking.
It's blinking.
so the proceeds from any properties that we sell would go towards new student programs?
Correct.
Okay. Not necessarily the auditorium, Darcel.
It's a new program.
Still working on it.
Roll call vote.
Is there like I can't even think of the word, sorry, I need some chicken. Is there like a description? I didn't say watermelon, I just said chicken.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
Yeah, cut the mic.
Sorry. I'm saying, is there a description or like with the new programs that's coming, is there a qualification for it? Is any new program that comes by, it'll use the funds, like what is?
That's approved by the board. And we always have the funding document for the motion. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarity.
So By new programs, you mean programs moving forward instead of ones that already exist, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
for the
Create
future
new,
use, for future use.
Ready? All right. Ready.
I'm tapped out of ideas.
Roll call vote?
Evans,
Yes,
Piles, yes. Laster,
Yes.
Davis,
No.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Wester,
I'm thinking.
oh, look at my.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I also have another motion. Move that the board request, I don't know how to word this, so. Move that the board instruct the superintendent to instruct the operations manager to get quotes for a board table and chairs by the next board meeting.
No, next board meeting would be the 23rd, will be the 23rd.
9:23, you going backwards?
10:23. No, 9:23 next year.
Is it instruct?
Wait.
I want a massage chair that reclines.
Okay, so
Move that the Board of Ed,
Is it,
direct the superintendent to bring back quotes, and he can bring back quotes through anybody he wants.
request for quotes for board table. Is there support?
Support.
Discussion?
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 Well, this is the time.
This is the time.
When we do get our new board table and seats, can I sit back next to Vice President McCarthy? Thank you.
Goodbye. Any,
Yeah, I mean, I just have some questions. I know why you suggest that. Couple of things that I was looking the other day, I'm like, well, if you look underneath there, we've done a whole lot. We've done a whole lot to this board table to make sure that everything was designed. I don't even know if I was here when it was delivered. I don't think I was here. But a lot went into this. And I'm like, is this just because you want this space, or you're worried about sickness, or, because I'm looking like, that's a lot, that's a lot of work.
COVID is ramping up, and
Yeah, I
we
got
are
mine.
very
I got
close.
mine.
We
I
are
got
very
mine.
close.
I know,
okay?
right? I got mine.
And
I got one.
if you look, we're all crammed. We don't have room to put our papers. We're confined. Okay? The board table, the old board table was not conducive. It was bulky. It was
Oh,
old.
yeah,
It was
I
old.
remember that one.
Okay? And these chairs, you can't, it's not,
I got it. Listen, you don't
yeah.
think it's conducive to what we're doing. I get it.
it's not
I'm
conducive
just saying
to
it's
what-
there's a lot that goes into it as well, because then they have to, all the
Well,
things that are underneath
we
this
actually
table and all
voted
that.
on chairs about a year ago, on new chairs, because this table, we were having the meetings over at the high school, but we did vote on new chairs.
If they're bigger,
They had rollers on them, at least we had
There's no room
rollers
here.
to get in and out of them, But we did, we voted on new chairs. The board table was supposed to be replaced a year and a half ago, okay, when it first came in.
I'd like to add, we were having some similar discussions, so Adam, if you don't mind, please.
I would just like to comment that it would take quite a bit of time, because like Dr. Edmondson said, there's a lot of equipment that's built into this desk. Power, audio, next board meeting is kind of.
No, I said quotes.
Oh.
Quotes.
Okay, yeah, okay,
You don't have morning, noon, and night to like crawl around and do the wires, come on.
no.
No, it was quotes for the next board meeting.
Any further questions or discussion? Roll call vote?
Evans. Laster. McCarthy.
Yes.
Davis,
No.
Piles, yes. Laster,
Yes.
Wester,
No.
motion carries. Madam, oh, never mind, there's okay.
Next on the agenda is a report of the board president. Action item is the Michigan Association of School Board 2023 delegates. The actual delegate conference is going to be on Thursday, July, sorry, towards the end of the year already. I'm sorry, we ready for the school year to be over. Be Thursday, November the 9th. It starts at 7 p.m. at the Lansing Center in Lansing. The delegates are to be selected across, from our boards of education across the state. I'm not sure who's going to the conference and who would like to be a delegate, but this is time for the motion. For those that would like to go.
So, Madam President, I'm on MASP's Resolutions and Bylaws Committee and received an email from Cheryl Huffman, as did all committee members, and I think we get 2 delegates, don't we?
Yes, 2
But
delegates and an
asking,
alternate.
yes, asking that those of us who are on the committee bring to the board to be, also be the delegate for our district. So I would ask to be considered for that reason.
And I would ask to be considered also.
And me as well.
And so, just about this, all districts that had any bylaws or revisions were to submit those. The committee has been working to revise some. We didn't get anything from districts, so what we have now is everything that will be discussed and voted on at the delegate assembly on Thursday evening. And sometimes, I was going to say sometimes it goes quick. I've heard sometimes it goes quick, and sometimes just one bylaw, the language can go on and on and on.
One was
So,
45 minutes
yeah.
last year.
So,
Madam President, you were a delegate last year, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it would be good to have new people as delegates.
You won't be able to go? Madam Vice President, are you going? It starts the 7th,
there's on the 9th.
November 9th.
No, 9, no.
It's on November 9th. The conference starts on that Thursday. Thursday, the 6th, right, it's a Sunday. Okay, you're not
Are
going.
you registered? No, you don't have to go every day.
No, I honestly would love to go. I can't commit to every single day
Right.
because honestly, I'm a vested parent who goes to all of my kids' sports games, and they normally have these games on Saturday. So, but yes, I would love to go Thursday and Friday.
Yeah. And there's like a workshop on Friday, and then there's like classes in the evening, so, and you can pick and choose what to go to.
You'd have to get with Eve so she can get you registered for the conference. So we need someone to read the recommended motion, please. Yes? Yes, there's a motion sheet. There's 2 delegates and an alternate.
Where's the,
Move that the Board of Education approves. Here.
motion?
Tired of reading it.
You can write in the other names?
You can go ahead and however you're gonna do the motion.
Okay, so I guess we need one alternate. You've got one name in, we've got another name, and then,
There's three people. There's
Right.
myself, yourself, and Evans. All three of us will be there, however you put them
oh,
on there,
okay, I
it's
didn't
fine.
know if McCarthy was, okay. So move that the Board of Education approves Piles and Evans as the Romulus Community Schools Board of Education 2023 MASB delegates, and Wester as the Romulus Community Schools Board of Education alternate.
Their support? Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Piles, yes. Evans,
Yes.
Laster,
Yes.
Davis,
No.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Wester,
No.
motion carries.
Next on the agenda, also under my report, I'd like to thank everyone for their presentations tonight. Dr. Gardner, Dr. Gitzinger, Dr. Meese for telling us about our social workers and things, and actually to Adam for bringing up the Securely app for our children, to be able to get that on their devices. And I'm hoping that the parents will get in and click on, because this save our children. You know, any little bit can help, that we can try and help to save our children is greatly appreciated. I really appreciate everyone that's come out tonight, coming out on our board meeting nights. It's so good to have everyone to come out on positive and negative notes, but just to sit here and show that you're concerned about our children. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for at the end of the night. I don't care about anything else. They don't pay my bills. So, moving on. Trustee Laster.
Madam President, I'm sorry, can I ask a question to you under your report, please? When we were talking about quotes, back in June, the board passed a motion regarding getting a rider for our insurance policy, and we passed a motion for quotes to come back. And I'm just wondering what the status on that is, what our current coverage is, and the status on those quotes.
Eve, can you take note of that so we can get that answer, please? Thank you. Trustee Laster, do you have anything?
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Treasurer Davis. Trustee Evans.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Mr. Olszewski.
Oh.
Thank you for helping with the field trip.
Just left.
She left. Yeah, it's important that we know what the cost is per student and to make sure that we know that everybody is safe, okay? Thank you, everyone else, for all the presentations. We've done a lot of collaborating tonight and moving forward. Thank you.
Secretary Piles.
Yes, thank you, Mr. O and Ms. Haas, for bringing back this trip. It's been a while since our middle school students went to Washington DC, and so not only bringing it back, but thank you for brainstorming on fundraisers so that students all have equal chance to go and that it's not cost prohibitive. That is appreciated. Dr. Gitzinger, thank you so much for that financial report. That is so helpful. You are much appreciated. Thank you. And then just a shout out, because this is National Principals Month, and we have the best ones here in our district for sure. I want to talk about Manufacturing Day, October 5th. Mr. Petty took 22 of our high schoolers to Manufacturing Day. This is an annual event. It's been a long-standing event where our students can get exposure to the different manufacturing careers, where Michigan is a leader in creating manufacturing careers, and it largely drives our state's economy. So shout out to Mr. Petty for doing that. Mr. White, I've heard from students about Mr. White, but what stands out to me is students are saying, he listens to us. And for a middle school student to say, he listens to us, that is huge. And so shout out to Mr. White, and thank you for, on top of everything he's doing, taking time to hear our students and allow them to have a voice. Mr. Niedermeyer is hustling with the whole STEAM Academy. Appreciate him. And Ms. Calloway for hosting us in her building for the ribbon cutting and also for our board meeting. Mr. Parker, I'm so excited that he's at Hale Creek. I watched last year students just gravitate toward him and staff, and so I'm glad that that building has solid leadership and somebody who is taking time to develop relationships with our students. Mrs. Nataro was here and left, but always, you know, there's great things happening at Rommel, and appreciate her work, and Mr. Thompson for always being supportive and uplifting of district events and supporting the people in his building. And then Wendy, I don't know, forget her last name, over at Adult Ed, and then our ECC principal. We really do have fantastic principals. So happy National Principals Month to all of you guys. And our band did a great job at homecoming, and then turned around the very next day and marched in the Apple Fest parade. So they did back-to-back events. And shout out that they're getting the opportunity to play in the Thanksgiving Day Parade this year and march in that. So great things happening here.
Thank you. Madam Vice President?
Eagle Nation, thank you for going the distance with us tonight. Thank you to everyone who presented, all of the fellow board members who showed up to tailgate with us on Friday to cheer our football team on, as well as our band. I want to encourage all of our sports team, in the words of Miss Sandy Tenney, keep pounding the stone. And I want to say the same thing to our board president. Be encouraged. I know that it's not easy to be a diplomat and sit up here each board meeting with everything that's going on. So kudos to you and your leadership. Keep doing what you're doing. That's all I have.
Dr. Edmondson, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just hope that the HR committee meets with Mr. Brock. We have some things that we need to move forward. Just want to certainly keep you on the process. For the board, it's pretty unclear for me in terms of my evaluation. We've had like 2 different months put on that, but it was pretty clear, I think it was made clear as to why the evaluation should be done by the end of the year. I would say January at the latest, pretty clear on why. So I'd hope that we get that evaluation done, you know, and done the right way, the way that Jay, I mean, not going to say anybody else is wrong, but Jay Bennett made it clear if there's concerns that you have, that information, that there should be some conversation about that so that I can move forward in getting you that information so that you're ready to make a decision in terms of, you know, my role here. I want to just thank Eve. It's great having you here. It's great having you here, and I thank you for everything that you do. The team as well. You all know I love coming to work. Appreciate you. Have so much fun. And as I said, I'm back. Lastly, to the community and to the board. If I win the Powerball, you will not see me. I promise you. I promise that. Love you to death, but I'm out. And you all can figure it out yourselves. So I'll make a donation and I'll say, see you. I'll make all your lives prosperous that we're here and stayed here. I'll take care of you, I promise you. Have a good night.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the October 9th, 2023 closed session for the purpose of 8H exempt material.
Support.
Roll call vote.
Davis?
Yes.
Piles, yes. Laster?
Yes.
Evitz?
Yes.
McCarthy?
Yes.
Wester?
Yes.
8:45.
8:45.
Powerball is at 10:59, and I'm hoping to get out so I can get myself a ticket.
Oh, I need
I'm
to
leaving.
text